Welcome to the Roy Morgan Weekly Update and the latest results from a special Roy Morgan poll on The Voice. But first, a look at the key weekly indicators. Support's holding up for the government despite other indicators moving in a negative direction. Support for the Albanese government was unchanged at 55.5% on a two-party preferred basis, while support for the coalition was also unchanged at 44.5%. This is still up about 3.5% for Labor compared to last year's federal election result, which the Labor Party won with 52.1% of the vote. However, government confidence dropped 5 points to 88.5 this week. Now, 48.5% of Australians, up 3 percentage points, say the country's heading in the wrong direction. And only 37%, down 2%, say the country's going in the right direction. Consumer confidence was also down this week by 1.1 points to 76.2. Consumer confidence has now spent 13 weeks below the mark of 80, the longest period at recession levels since the index began. Consumer confidence is clearly still the lowest for people paying off their home, those with mortgages, at only 70.2. But the biggest drop this week was for people renting. Their consumer confidence dropped 6.6 points to 77.3. This drop came after what might be called a post-budget bounce for this group, following the increased job seeker payments. And ahead of next week's crucial Reserve Bank meeting on interest rates, we look at the key indication of inflation expectations. Australians now expect annual inflation of 5.3% over each of the next 2 years. That's up 0.2% in just this 1 week. Inflation expectations are once again in line with the 5.3% average so far this year, and well below the high of 6.8% reached in early November last year. Now, onto what might be the key political issue facing Australians over the next few months: The Voice, a referendum to establish an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice to Parliament. In December last year, Roy Morgan reported 53% of Australians supported establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice to Parliament, known by most as The Voice. This support dropped to 46% in mid-April, and the latest Roy Morgan Snap SMS survey just over the last weekend shows little change in support since then. In late May, support for The Voice is unchanged at 46% of Australians, but fewer, 36%, say they'll vote no. That's down 3%. More, 18%, are undecided. That's an extra 3%. The most important demographic break for any referendum is the result by state. And that's because for any referendum to pass in Australia, a majority of voters nationally, as well as a majority of voters in at least 4 Australian states, must vote yes to the change. This double hurdle is a key reason that not many referendums have passed in Australian history. So an analysis of the latest poll shows there were mixed results on a state-by-state basis in that late May survey. And for the first time, there were no states with majority support for The Voice. Support's highest in New South Wales at 48%, followed by Victoria and South Australia, both at 47%, close to a majority, but not quite there. Support for The Voice was still the most likely response for people in Western Australia and Tasmania, but well below the crucial threshold of 50% in both of those states. Most worryingly for supporters of The Voice, there were once again more people opposed to The Voice in Queensland than in favour. A steady 46% opposed means the Sunshine State is clearly the least likely to vote in favour of the change. Looking at support for The Voice by party affiliation shows the largest change has actually been for Labor voters. Support's dropped 8 percentage points to 67% among Labor voters, so it's still a solid majority in favour, but there's a move. Support from Green voters is virtually unchanged at a very high 90%. In contrast, only 10% of coalition voters support the Voice, and just 2% of One Nation voters. Perhaps the most crucial, or at least interesting results, are for independents and other party voters. Support for the Voice increased for both on a month ago. Now 49% of independent voters support the Voice and 30% of other party voters. Both of those are up 9 percentage points on a month ago. Now, traditionally, Australians only support referendum questions that have bipartisan support, which is a major challenge for this referendum. Support for the Voice is clearly stronger among women, 51% support, than men, where it's only 40% support. And the majority of younger Australians, that's under 35, are in favour, 63% support. Support among all age groups over 35 has fallen on a month ago, with a majority of 51% of people aged 65 plus now opposed. There's a long way to go until the referendum is held in October or perhaps November later this year. But the indications are that the proposed change faces a significant challenge in securing a majority of Australians in a majority of states. And that's a wrap for this week. Subscribe free to our Roy Morgan YouTube channel for all the latest political, economic and market research data and insights. Thanks for listening today, and I look forward to bringing you the latest data on consumer confidence, inflation expectations and voting intentions again next week. Take care, and we'll see you next Tuesday.